We feel optimistic, and we know that each election cycle gives us a unique opportunity to reset the dial. This is our chance to restore and reinvigorate our democracy. This is the season for regeneration. Are you feeling it? Are you feeling optimistic? Do you feel good? The energy in the air is irresistible. Change is coming. This energy is so eager, so present, that all of our flowers are now blooming in February. I see this as a good sign, okay? But as I've been traveling across the state, and I've been giving lots of public speeches, the theme that I keep coming back to over and over and over again is that our protests, our rallies, our marches are not enough. And you know I love protests, rallies, and marches. Okay, I miss them, but they're not enough. If we are going to really resist, if we are really going to restore our democracy, we need to elect sane people. Sane people, right? And that is why we are here tonight, or this morning. I don't even know when I am. I'm in the middle of the legislative session, so it's a little bit wonky. But our goal here, we must elect sane people to school boards, to city and county councils. We need mayoral seats, and of course, legislative seats. We need to fill them, and we need to send a sane delegation to Washington, D.C. This must be our priority. All right, we can march as much as we want and protest as much as we want, but until we do this, we are not going to see the change that our country so desperately needs. So that's why we are here this morning. Equality Utah's theme this year is Wake the Hive, because our goal is to wake the beehives. Endorse fair-minded, sane candidates in state races. And we write them checks, and we boost their campaigns with phone banks, mailers, and a volunteer team to go door-to-door canvassing for them. So that's what we're doing. That's why we're raising money today. And our technology is now so advanced that we can tell if you Equality Utah members have voted or not. And if you haven't, we find you, we hunt you down, and we barrage you with text messages to get to the polls, mail in your ballots. And that is our goal today. Yeah. So this year we are planning an aggressive get out the vote effort, and our goal is to register between 10 and 15,000 new voters, and then once we've got them, activate them. So that's the plan, and we are going to do that with the money that we raised today. So anytime that this morning that you feel inspired and you feel fired up and you want to make a difference, you can donate to that effort. And we're going to do a bit to our endorsed candidates. This is a huge number. It's bigger than we ever have before. And so we really want to sort of rally and build a strong war chest. So today our goal is to raise about $15,000, all right? Or no, I'm sorry, $20,000. But if we raise $15,000 from you, Jane and Tammy Marquardt are going to throw in an additional $5,000. So, because they're always there for us, you know. But, you know, don't let them upstage you. If you want to give more than $5,000, we'll take it. We have a monitor here, and if you check your cell phones now, you should have received a text message with a donation link. And you can pull that up and follow the donation link, and anytime throughout the morning, you can go ahead and donate, and this thermometer will go up till we hit $15,000. And you can donate multiple times, all right? So don't be shy, all right? I want to recognize some people, our elected leaders here today. And if someone's here that I don't know, please let me know. But we have Mayor Ben McAdams just had to leave, but he was here. Mayor Jackie Biskupski, please stand. Please stand when I call your name. Is Jackie here? We miss her? Okay. Representative Rebecca Chavez-Hauk in the House. Representative Angela Romero. Where's Angela? County Council Member Arlen Bradshaw. Council Member Derek Kitchen. Council Member Marsha White. Amy Fowler. Kris Wharton, Dustin Gettle, Corey Thomas. Did I miss anybody? Anybody here? Awesome. And if you are currently running for public office in 2018, can you please stand? We've got Ben McAdams, of course, is running. Jennifer Daly Provost. Jennifer here. Suzanne Harrison, over there. Serene Gorbani. Igor Lemansky. Jackie Orton. Scott Rosenbush. Anybody else? Anybody else that's running for office this year? All right. Thank you. All right, these are the future leaders of Utah. I want to thank my staff too. I mean, they are the ones who make the magic happen. I get up to be showy up on stage, but I'm only really good up on stage because I got the most amazing team around me. And so I want to thank our Associate Director, Nicole Deku, our Programs Manager, Preston Hilburn, our Membership Coordinator, Sarah Bell, and our Development Director, Mindy Young. They are the ones who really make Equality Utah happen, so thank you. And I want to recognize the Equality Utah PAC board. We have two separate boards at Equality Utah, one for our C3 and C4 work, and then also for our PAC as well. So please stand. Our chair, Weston Clark, right there. Whitney Norton, Breanne Miller, Holly Yoakum, Alan Dayton, and our newest PAC member, Nikki Boyer. Yes. So, quickly before we jump into the program, I'm sure you want a legislative update, right? It's been so much fun. 3 weeks, it feels like 3 years. The key word for all of us going through this session is vigilance, because even though that we have won the right to marry, and even though we have won non-discrimination protections and other victories, there are always lawmakers who want to chip away at what we have achieved and roll back our gains. And so the case in point, I want to talk a little bit about Senator Hilliard. He introduced a bill on gestation agreements. Now, 13 years ago, Hilliard crafted a law to provide legal protections to intended parents who require surrogates to have children. The law didn't exist before, and it caused all kinds of legal problems. But after the Obergefell decision happened, Senator Hilliard looked at the law and said, wait a minute, gay people are using my surrogacy law? I didn't draft that to protect the gays. So I'm going to rescind it. And in his willingness to harm gay parents, he was also willing to harm straight parents as well. So this week, we partnered with the Infertility Resource Center and an amazing team of family law attorneys. And we packed the committee hearing with so many families who have used surrogates to actually have children. And the testimony was so powerful, so overwhelming, that by the end of the hearing, Senator Hilliard rescinded and pulled back his bad, harmful bill. So, and thanks to all of you who responded to our action alerts and contacted your representative. There was nobody up on the Hill supporting this bill, all right? Only Hilliard. So thank you for making your voice heard. And now we have bad bills, but we also have good bills too. And for our transgender community, we have a promising bill sponsored by Todd Weiler. It's SB 138. And this legislation will help the trans community apply for gender marker changes in the same manner that they would a name change. Now, this bill was inspired by a lawsuit filed by our own Kris Wharton, okay, on behalf of 2 transgender plaintiffs. And if this law passes, and it passes in a good form, it will provide all of the legal remedies that Kris has asked the judiciary for. But initially, we were worried that the language of the bill didn't provide enough protections for the transgender community, so we opposed it initially. And we're working with the sponsor. He's made a lot of changes. We've been consulting with the National Center for Lesbian Rights and the amazing attorney Shannon Minter to kind of help us through this, working closely with HRC and with the ACLU to make sure that this bill passes. And if it does, if it passes in a good form, I'm going out on a limb here, but I believe this will be the only pro-transgender bill ever to pass through a Republican-controlled legislature. So, you know, it does seem like the legislature is a little bipolar sometimes. That's why the vigilance is so important. And I want to update you on our hate crimes effort, because we've been working on this for so long. Senator Urquhart introduced hate crimes revisions 3 years ago, and we've been met with opposition on this. But support for this legislation has grown exponentially since we started. And this year, we have approached the Hill with Senator Thatcher sponsoring, another Republican sponsoring our bill. And we have so much support. Every single law enforcement agency in the state is endorsing this bill. The new Catholic bishop has wrote this powerful, persuasive op-ed this week supporting the bill. We have all of these faith groups, and we have passed resolutions in 8 different municipalities asking for the legislature to take up this issue. Derek Kitchen pushed it forward in Salt Lake City. Marcia White pushed it forward in Ogden. And Arlen Bradshaw pushed it forward in Salt Lake County. So thank you. And when the president of the Senate, President Niederhauser, when he saw the overwhelming support for this legislation from all of these organizations, he brought the sponsor into his office and said, "We're not hearing the bill. We are not even going to let it have a hearing." And it's difficult to understand why. And the cynic in me thinks that really, truly, the only reason that they will not hear this bill is because it includes sexual orientation and gender identity. And you know, the gays and the trans, they've been really pushy lately. Well, we're going to keep pushing on this legislation. And the session's not over. And we're going to continue to be noisy. And we're going to continue to work on this until we have a law that protects everybody in this state. So, are you getting fired up? Are you donating? I can't see the monitor. Is stuff going up? I have been giving a lot of inspiring one-liners, and that should get you donating. How are we doing?
Get your phones out, folks.
Get your phones out and start donating. Okay. Other good news, or interesting news, the governor of Utah invited Equality Utah to be part of a youth suicide task force. We've heard the stats, they're alarming. Youth suicide in this state has increased 140% since 2011. And a lot of those are our own youth. So we're working with the LDS Church, we're working with many stakeholders, many lawmakers. But my message to all of them is, to the LDS Church and both to the governor and the lieutenant governor, is that the task force can't just be for show. We need substantial public policies that send a positive message to LGBTQ youth that we see them, we see you, we value you, we love you, and there's a positive future for you in this state. So, there's lots of good things, there's lots of bad things. We need you continually to be vigilant and continuing to support our work. And you'll be hearing more about the task force over the next few weeks. So I want to kick off the program today, and I want to welcome some panelists. Before I became the director of Equality Utah, I was the producer and co-host of a little talk show called Radioactive on KRCL 90.9 FM. Yes. And since I left, it's gotten better, and it's gotten bigger, and it's gotten bolder. And a lot of that is because of the new co-producer and co-host of the show, Billy Palmer. He is a social justice warrior. And I'm so glad and so grateful that the show that I helped create is in such good hands today. And we are here to celebrate the fact that just this last election cycle, we elected 4 out gay people to Utah City Councils. So I want to welcome them to the stage. Dustin Gettle from Midvale, Amy Fowler, Kris Wharton from Salt Lake City, and Marcia White from Ogden, and Billy Palmer.
Yeah, fix those chairs however it's cozy. I'll sit on the end.
No, we have 5. That's right. Here we go. Where are you going? I just rearranged chairs for no reason. I'll be in the middle.
Sit next to me and stay dynamic.
Well, hello. Is this thing on? Can you hear me? So I need a little energy in the room. So I'm just gonna. All right, that's pretty good. I'm going to do a little chant. We're gonna start with. You guys are all familiar with this. Fired up, ready to go. Are you familiar with that? I say fired up. You say ready to go. It's a rallying cry for social justice workers. So I'm gonna say fired up. You say yell ready to go. If I yell it, you're gonna yell it, right? So fired up. Ready to go. Fired up. Ready to go. Now we're ready. All right. So let me introduce our new elected leaders with a little short bio. Dustin Gettle, the man to my right, is newly elected Midvale City Councilman, winning a landslide victory in 2017 behind a grassroots campaign. He holds a master's degree in health law and from Delaware Law School, and in addition to his councilman responsibilities, is a policy analyst for Utah Medical Review Board. Amy Fowler is a Utah native, a newly elected Salt Lake City Council, District 7, and an alumni of the University of Utah Law School. She co-founded the LGBT and Allied Lawyers of Utah, and in 2014, joined the Public Defender's Office. She has experience in civil litigation and immigration as well. Marcia White.
Marcia? It's okay. It's spelled.
Is it? Okay. Great to know. That's how you spell it. Got it. Okay. Marcia White understands the value of giving time to her community. She won re-election to the City Council in Ogden. She's also in leadership. I still believe you are chair of your... Just went off. She was chair of her city council as well. She is a past board member of Equality Utah and has worked with Leadership Utah and moving beyond boundaries. She has lived in Utah for over 20 years. I have more notes on her in here. She has a long list of accomplishments and things that she does. Kris Wharton, the guy to my right. Kris was elected by District 3 residents in Salt Lake City. His council colleagues, go ahead, you can clap for him. His council colleagues elected Kris to serve as council vice chair in 2018. Kris is a dedicated community activist, attorney, and small business owner. As a 6th-generation resident of Salt Lake City, Kris has deep roots in District 3. He has shown his passion for progressive issues as a volunteer for various community organizations and causes. I believe you're a civil rights activist and LGBTQ advocate lawyer, too.
Correct.
Is that correct? Okay. So let's give them a round of applause and a congratulations. So I wanted to begin this panel by just establishing a couple things so we can get a little bit deeper into the conversation. We can go ahead and recognize that LGBTQ persons serving in leadership and in public service can bring a unique perspective that would not otherwise be present in making decisions that directly affect people's lives. Having come to where you are now, this is for the whole panel, I'll have you answer individually. You're out and you're proud. I believe that deserves applause. You're out and you're proud. And you are now in leadership in your community and in office. Why is that important for Why is that important for you, and why did you run for office? And we'll start with Marcia.
Great, thanks. First of all, I am not an attorney, so that's, I just feel like I'm tilting the scale over here. So a couple of things. First of all, I ran because I care about my community, and I bet you every one of us will say that same thing. I also ran because it was, one, important that potholes got fixed and that the garbage got picked up and all the things that we get to do on the city council. And then the other part that I ran is because I think it's important for us to be at the table, not just as a LGBT person, but also as a woman. So I thought that being at the table meant that we could have a voice, and so that's mostly why I ran.
So also, with all of that as context, Dustin Gettle, why did you run?
So basically, I ran for office because I kept almost getting hit in the crosswalk outside of my apartment. And I kept going to the city council and telling them about this crosswalk, and they kept giving me the same answer. Oh yeah, we know about it, we know it's dangerous, but give us until July 1st, 2018, and we might get a pedestrian crossing out there for you. So I kind of thought that wasn't adequate answer, so that's what initially brought me to the point. Is like, hey, you know what? I think I could do a better job than this. And then, in, other aspects of it, I thought it was important for Midvale to have, at least someone who wasn't fitting the same mold of the current councilman. I don't fit many molds, so I didn't lead with the fact that, hey, I'm an out gay person running for this seat, but deep down I knew that it was important to be elected, and then as people found that out for themselves, I thought it's kind of a cool thing for Midvale to accomplish.
Kris Wharton.
So I ran because, as was mentioned, my family's lived in Salt Lake City for generations, and I'm extremely passionate about Salt Lake City. And growing up in Utah as an LGBT kid, I felt that Salt Lake was a place where I felt safe, a place where I felt comfortable, and a place where I felt like I could truly be me, live my authentic life. And I want Salt Lake to continue to be that. I think that Salt Lake represents the best of Utah. It represents that we can bring together different sides, that we can solve problems, complex problems, and that we can lead the state, or sometimes drag the state into the future. And I ran because of all of us, because of the people in this room and our community. And we are part of what makes this such a great place to live and such an interesting place to live. And I wanted to make sure that we continue to sort of advance and move forward. Thanks.
My turn.
Amy Fowler.
I ran because of Equality Utah. It's actually, so 4 years ago, Brandy Balkan called me. It should. This is a true story. 4 years ago, Brandy Balkan called me and she said, hey, there's a House of Representatives seat that's going to open up in your district and we think you should run. You're not going to win, but you should put your name out there. And I said, well, that's silly. Huh. And I talked to my wife about it, and we were actually on vacation in Colorado, and Senator Bacchus called and was like, hey, you need to put your name in that, and I did, and I lost twice. And then here I am today. So it really was because of Equality Utah, because somebody saw something in me that I perhaps maybe didn't see in myself, but knew was there. And encouraged me to do it, and continue to encourage me to do it. And supporters around me that said, you can make a difference, and that's what you want to do, so you should do it. And so that's why I'm here and why I ran. And yeah.
Amy, you just let me... I'm used to doing a radio show, not a live show, so I forget to wait for applause. Amy, you led me right into the next question here. Is there anything else
We can answer that.
how Equality Utah supported your campaign was going to be my next question. So, do you have any more comment about how Equality Utah supports your campaign?
Well, this is obviously the amount of volunteers, the financial contributions, and really above all, the encouragement. Every time I kind of felt a little like, oh, can we do this again? In fact, like this last race, it took a lot of convincing to get me to do this again. And it was the people are closest to me, and a lot of those people are standing right in this room today that called and said, you can do this, and we got your back. And they did throughout the entire process, had my back, and I am forever grateful for that.
Kris Wharton, same question for you. How did Equality Utah help your campaign?
Started by making sure that I was an informed and engaged and active voter long before I ever decided to run for office. And I think that is really the first and most important thing that Equality Utah does. And then also they Equality Utah and the other LGBT organizations inspired me because of the strength of our community here. And as a candidate, Equality Utah was there. They helped us motivate me, helped me to knock on the door of my district, like I was on the fifth round when the election time came, and Equality had a lot of walking, and avenues a lot of hills. And Equality Utah was there, helping knock doors and talk to voters, and helping contribute so that I could get the message out.
That's fantastic. Apparently, we forget sometimes too. Dustin Gettle, same question for you. How did Equality Utah help your campaign?
So for my race, we have much smaller demographics. In my race, it was 2,500 registered voters. So by the time Equality Utah had endorsed me, I'd already been to everyone's door at least once, some of them twice. So I didn't ask for any financial contributions. They did offer, but I thought it could be better spent on other candidates. The only thing I asked was they did help send out a massive amount of text messaging for me, which was a huge help. Most of the responses were, hey, who are you, how did you get my number? But, it did galvanize a few people. I would say, a few dozen people who either, voted because of that or just, got into contact with me somehow and told me, they already voted for me or, really appreciate my campaign. So, and there's the prestige of an Equality Utah endorsement as well, that I think, all of us who are candidates really desire to have. So there's that as well.
Marshall White, I guess one of us is going to forget each time, right? Marshall White, you're a veteran at this, and you know how to win elections. How did Equality Utah affect your campaign?
So that's funny. I was thinking through my tenure with Equality Utah, and I used to actually and we would beg candidates to run. Allies gave candidates, and we would just hope that they would run. And so the first time I ran, it was a much different process. I went through the interview, and as I was walking out the door, somebody said, I'm not sure the air. And I went, oh my gosh, how is it that 10 years ago I was here and today it's not here? But one of the things I want to say, and it's really, really helpful, I had a candidate actually next to me and his first mayor outdoor was, very quiet, kids, it's grandkids, tried to run I called the candidate, called Utah and council and said, don't worry, just yourself and you all being able to put out again, stressing I want to fix potholes, I want to do good things in the city. And I had more people asking me about outdoors, realize that was my life right now. People knew that I could fix things, people knew that I was a good candidate, and we had to totally appreciate this path. And so, thank you for supporting me, and actually got more members out and was able to get more else. All of you taught me that you guys
So,
and hopefully I'm still there.
Marcia Gettle. So let's focus on one of the big questions this year for Equality Utah. This will be our last question. Let's go with Kris first. Why is it so important? Why is it important to get people registered to vote? And what are some of the best practices? You just won an election. I'm sure there was a push for getting more people registered to vote. Why is that important?
Well, as Troy put earlier, I think we got to cancel this sitcom, or this, not sitcom, this reality TV show that we see in politics right now of people that are running on division, that are running on us versus them, and people that try to make us believe that there's more that separates us than there is that unites us. And I think that the future of our democracy and the strength of our democracy needs problem solvers. We need people who know how to bring people together rather than set them apart. We need people that know how to look at a complicated situation and see that there are two sides to this and try to find a middle road through that. And I think that people who are fair-minded, people who believe in giving people equal opportunity in society to succeed, those are the kind of people that we need leading in our local communities, at the state level, and on the national level.
Amy Fowler, what would you suggest as best practices, and also how would you encourage people here to get people registered to vote, and the importance of it?
I think we have to remind people that every vote really does matter. Every single vote. We saw too many elections. There were several elections last year that were so incredibly close. And we really, I think, it is our responsibility to remind people that if you care at all about anything, about the potholes, about the streetlight, about equality, about diversity, about whatever it is you might care about, then you have to vote, because your vote really does matter. And I think that too often we see that, especially in the Democratic Party in Utah, oh, it doesn't matter, my voice doesn't count, it's not going to go anywhere. But we see way too often that it really does matter. And we need to get that message out there, and it's important for us to make sure that we're getting that message out there and reminding people that every vote really does matter. This last year was the first time my stepmom and my dad ever voted, and they're like in their 60s, right? But I think they did it because I was running for office. They couldn't vote for me, but they saw the political process and how important every vote is, and they decided to get involved in that way. So we need to be those messengers and remind people how important this is.
Dustin Gettle, she spoke to that sort of people being discouraged. I'm sure you saw that. How would you answer this question?
So not to echo what they've already said, one of the proudest parts of my campaign is that I registered 36 new voters while I was out knocking on doors, which doesn't sound like a whole lot, but again, in a district of 2,500 people, it's kind of significant. And I'm sure, as a candidate, when you register a voter, there's a very strong probability that they're going to vote for you. And I think that's, the candidates who are running for office now in this election cycle, I think that's something, to take home. It's just don't assume that the person who answers the door is the person on your list. Make sure that that person is not that person that have voter registration or tablet ready to go. More people we register, more votes that are probably going to come our way.
And Marcia White, you get the last word here. It's pretty appropriate.
Has this gone yet?
Yeah.
Just real quick, I think one of the things that I think about it, and it's really smart people here, but the people that we're registering to vote, most of them are young, and they're our future, and we really need to make sure they get out, not just register and go, get out, because they are our future. We're not going to live forever, and we need to make sure that they're the ones that are getting into the process as well. So that's what feels really important. We're going to live forever. Much more than young. But that's why it's important.
Well, thank you all, and congratulations. We're all sure.
We were emboldened by the lives of 3 young plaintiffs, one of whom, Katie Smith Gish, is here with us today. In 2016, Equality Utah filed a lawsuit against the State Board of Education to overturn the law. We partnered with the law firm Rose & Gray and Kate Kendall and the National Center for Lesbian Rights. The legislature responded with an almost unanimous overturn of the law. None of this success could have happened without Cliff Roski. He is a constitutional law professor at the University of Utah and the former board chair of Equality Utah. His work laid the groundwork for our lawsuit against the State Board of Education. Not only is he an expert on no promo homo laws, his work was instrumental in achieving our non-discrimination law 3 years ago. He's also been instrumental in helping us to advocate for hate crimes in Utah, and has been working closely with Senator Todd Weiler with this session to advance a bill that will honor transgender Utahns' efforts to change their name and gender markers. Cliff has been the legal mind behind all of our success. He's a warrior for our community and a fierce advocate for Equality Utah's biggest goals to the tiniest detail. When reviewing or drafting legislation, he won't allow one comma, one semicolon, or one misplaced sentence to threaten our legal rights. We're thrilled this morning to present our Champion Equality Award to Cliff Roski.
Thank you, Whitney, and thank you, Katie, and thanks to all of you. I'm really deeply honored to receive this award, especially from people who I hold so much admiration and so much respect. Before I was from Utah, I was from New Jersey. And, it's not the response I always get. Believe it or not, some people made fun of me from my home state. They hadn't been there, they don't see the beaches and the forests and the farmland. They don't know us, so they don't understand us and they underestimate us. And they all are from Utah. And when I first moved here, I felt so hard, so fast for this place. I met my wife here, a person to whom and for whom I'm most grateful. We're raising our children here, 2 little girls that inspire me year after year to keep doing this work. More than anywhere else, I can honestly say that Utah is not my home. 10 years ago, when I first moved here, I used to get so many looks from friends and colleagues when I traveled. They'd say, "Did you say Utah? And then you teach what? And they let me teach that?" And I had this patient smile and I said to them that the view is not wide and Salt Lake City is narrow. And they were like, "Oh." But that's fine, that's great. All those misunderstandings are just opportunities. Whenever they underestimate us, we catch them off guard. If we can make progress here, then they have no excuses, right? They can make progress wherever they are. It's like Fowler said, you gotta be called, and we are. We're not just making progress here, we're making history. In the last 2 years, people have been visiting us in Utah, from Arizona, Indiana, Australia, and Japan, and they're wondering how we are doing this, how we're pulling this off. We have a lesbian mayor, a gay senator, a half-dozen LGBT council members. The first Republican state to pass a law of any kind that actually protects LGBT people. The second state with only California to repeal the no homo law. Thanks to Katie. And it sure says we are not done by a long shot. We're going to keep on surprising the world. We're going to keep on doing this work until there's more work left to do. So thank you again so much for this award. It's truly a privilege to do this work with you all. Be part of this organization, this community, and this movement. I really believe there's no better place doing this work, or no better people doing it that way. So thank you.
All right, okay, there we go. Awesome. Thank you so much, Cliff. It's an honor to work with Cliff. I am on the phone with him at all hours of the day, all hours of the night, and always amazing. His strategic brain is incredible. So before we get to our main event, Kendall, we need to sort of break things up with some awesome music, and I'm so thrilled to bring on our next 2 performers. I want to welcome to the stage LaToya Cameron and Candace Marie, the sister duo. They're going to perform This Is Me from the film The Greatest Showman. Thank you so much.
Hi. Thank you. Are you guys having a good time tonight? This is awesome, right? Or I should say today. I'm LaToya, and we're the sister duo, I suppose, so it's awesome. We are just really, really happy to be here today. We are big allies of equality and love here in Utah, and we are super, super grateful that Equality Utah has done such wonderful work to progress our state. One sec. Hello, there we go. I'm Candace, and I just love what Equality Utah stands for, and I'm just so grateful that Mindy asked us to perform for this, so here we go.
I'm not a stranger to the dark. Hide away, they say, 'cause we don't want your broken parts. Learn to be ashamed of all my scars. Run away, they say, no one will love you as you are. But I won't let them break me down to dust. I know that there's a place for us, for we are glorious. When the sharpest words want to cut me down, I'm gonna send a flood, gonna drown them out. I am brave, I am bruised, I am who I'm meant to be. This is me. Look out, 'cause here I come, and I'm marching on to the beat I drum. I'm not scared to be seen, I make no apologies. This is me. Another round of bullets breaks my skin. We'll fire away, 'cause today I won't let the shame sink in. We are bursting through the barricade, reaching for the stars. We are warriors, yeah, that's what will become. I won't let them break me down to dust. I know that there's a place for us, for we are glorious. When the sharpest words want to cut me down, I'm gonna send a flood, gonna drown them out. I am brave, I am bruised, I am who I'm meant to be. This is me. Look out, 'cause here I come, and I'm marching on to the beat I drum. I'm not scared to be seen. This is who I'm meant to be. This is me. And I know that I deserve your love. There's nothing I'm not worthy of. The sharpest words wanna cut me down. I'm not scared to flood, gonna drown me out. This is brave, this is bruised, this is who I'm meant to be. This is me. Look out, 'cause here I come, and I'm marching on to the beat I drum. I'm not scared to be seen, I make no apologies. This is me. When the sharpest words wanna cut me down, I'm gonna stand a flood, gonna drown them out. This is me.
Thank you, LaToya and Candace, very much. Let's give them another applause. Hello, everybody. It's so great to see you all. I am Weston Clark. I'm the board chair for the Equality Utah PAC. We are thank you. We are excited to welcome our keynote speaker, Kate Kendall, who I don't think knows who I am, but I'm a huge fan of hers. Kate leads the National Center for Lesbian Rights, a national legal organization committed to advancing the civil and human rights of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender people and their families through litigation, public policy, advocacy, and public education. Kate grew up Mormon in Utah, didn't we all? and received her JD degree from the University of Utah College of Law in 1988. She was soon named the first staff attorney for the American Civil Liberties Union of Utah. In 1994, she accepted the position as legal director with the National Center for Lesbian Rights and made the move to San Francisco. In 1996, she became their executive director. And though she lives in the Bay Area with her wife and kids, she continues to have a huge impact on LGBTQ equality in Utah. In 2013, NCLR joined forces with Peggy Tomczyk to successfully guide the landmark case, Kitchen v. Herbert. And as was mentioned earlier, NCLR partnered with Equality Utah to end no promo homo. As a former teacher, that to me is so amazing. And kids in the public school system. And most recently, the NCLR has provided legal support and guidance this legislative session as we have worked to advance the law to protect the rights of transgender Utahns. Kate continues to play a crucial role in our state, and we are excited to welcome her home. Please give a round of applause to Kate Kendall.
Good morning. Thank you. Thank you. I love coming home. There's just no, this is, I've been in San Francisco now for 24 years, which I still can't believe it's been that long. And yet, the plane lands here, and I just feel my shoulders drop, and my breath slow, and my blood pressure drop a little bit. It is such a pleasure to be here, and to be in a room with so many people who've meant so much to me for so many years, new friends as well. I just want you to know that whatever I give and whatever NCLR gives, I get it back 1,000-fold. So thank you for having me here. I love that, and it's no surprise that Jane and Tammy are benefactors for us this morning. Many of you know, but if you don't know, Jane is one of the primary reasons I'm even standing here and even went to law school. And when I didn't believe that I was going to be smart enough to go to law school or be able to be competitive at law school environment, I remember mentioning that to Jane, and I remember vividly where I was standing in the kitchen of the apartment that I lived in at that time. I expressed these fears to Jane. She said, "Don't be ridiculous. Of course, you can and should go to law school." So thank you, Jane. And I want to thank Equality Utah and Troy. I knew Troy when he was like knee-high to a grasshopper. And so to see your leadership now, Troy, and still call you such a close friend and colleague means so much. Cliff Roski, we've been in battle with Cliff multiple times. To share the stage with you is such an honor. Congratulations. So much about how Troy framed earlier was this sense and feeling of optimism. And I think that is so important in this moment, because if you don't have optimism and you don't have a sense of hope, as Harvey Milk exhorted us to, we're ceding the field to our opponents. We have to believe that we can be a force for change. And yet I know that that is difficult to do in this moment with a daily rain of terror coming from this administration. I understand that, and it's really hard to pick yourself up again and again and again with so many people in our community and so many issues that we care about under attack. But it's also important to frame this moment in the arc of history. One of my favorite quotes from Martin Luther King, the first line is, "Power without love is reckless and abusive." We are living through that right now. Power, unleavened by love, and the reckless abuse and terrorizing effect it has on an entire citizenry. But even still, understanding that we are part of a long arc of the moral universe is really crucial in a moment like this. And for me, the very first hope that I heard, just in the days after the election, was when the director of the NAACP Legal Defense and Education Fund, Cheryl and Eiffel, sent out a video to their members and supporters. And she began by saying, I know you're scared. I'm scared. I don't know what this administration is going to mean for our communities, but I'm pretty sure it's not going to be good. And then she said, well, let's remember where we've been, and particularly for African Americans, where they've been has been a lot more savage than where we are right now. And she just used one example. She said in the 1950s, dozens of black men in the South were being lynched. And you could not find a member of Congress willing to carry anti-lynching legislation. And the president at the time said, even if such legislation were to pass Congress, he wouldn't sign it. In the throes of Jim Crow, that is what African Americans were facing. And then you fast forward to our community. In the 1980s, first at a trickle, and then by the hundreds, and then by the thousands, gay men were dying. And the government was doing nothing. In fact, when Larry Speaks, then President Reagan's press secretary, was asked at a press conference, what's the administration's response to these thousands of gay men who are dying in our cities? Larry Speaks' response? He laughed, mocked the idea that the government should even care. So what did we do? Out of nothing, we built an infrastructure. We lobbied and forced our government to pay attention. Heroes like Dr. Kris Wharton and Maggie Snyder. In the midst of tremendous discrimination and harassment, they stood up and our community stood up and began saving our men. And now we are within like a stone's throw of eliminating HIV. Fast forward again, winning the freedom to marry in this country. 20 years ago, the idea was laughable and a fantasy. And yet, you all told your stories. You were honest with your families. When you came back to Thanksgiving, you said, I'm not coming unless I can bring him. And people started to change their minds and their view. And we had heroes like Derek Kitchen and Moody Sabiti standing up and saying, we're going to fight back. We want our relationship recognized and we want to be honored for our love. And so in 2015, 3 years ago, we win the freedom to marry nationwide. And now we're in a difficult moment. I understand that. And yet, this administration's Muslim ban has been stopped in its tracks. We, for the first time, NCLR, we've never sued a sitting president before. He seems like the right one to sue this one. So we have sued the administration to stop his promised ban through Twitter of transgender service members serving in the military. And so far, we've won at every stage of our litigation. It's moments like these that this community was born for. You have had the privilege, and many people did not live to see this day, of us winning landmark wins that just less than a generation ago would have been unthinkable. You've been witnesses to winning your own liberation. That creates a responsibility. We are living in the most consequential moment of our lives. In the midst of a regime that threatens everything we care about. So the question fundamentally has to be, well, what are you going to do about it? And there have been people time and again, and many of you in this room, and certainly Equality Utah, that have stood up and said, well, I'll show you what we're going to do about it. We're going to take our country back. And that is what people have done again and again. And when this history, when this chapter is written, look, there's a lot of harm that's been done. I don't want to in any way minimize the families that have been terrorized, the individuals who wake up every day in a cold sweat because they're not sure if they're going to be able to make it through a day. So I don't want to minimize that. But this is a moment where we must be challenged to stand up and to push back. More. That arc of the moral universe, Dr. King's other quote, is being contested right now. Which way is it going to bend? Well, I suggest that you're all committed to making sure it bends towards justice. Now, as you all know, I did grow up Mormon in Utah. Good girl gone bad. And my mother was a devout Mormon her entire life. I mean, she was the devout one in the family. And we went to church every Sunday. I was, believe it or not, a young adult Relief Society president. At the same time, I was sleeping with a woman. I did things I did not tell my bishop. But my mom was also my greatest champion. When I came out to her, she was unreserved in her support for me. And this preternatural optimism, the optimism I have for even this moment that we're in, really can be traced back to her. And even after she had a first stroke, and then a second stroke, which debilitated her, made it impossible for her to work and even live independently, she still loved life. And in the wake of her second stroke, I was now living in California. My sister called and said, you have to get back here. Mom's had another stroke. We're not sure if she's going to survive or not. I came back. She survived and began that long, hard slog back from a second stroke. I'm out here visiting maybe 6 weeks later again, and the speech therapist comes to take her for speech therapy. And she's asking my mother what would normally be very simple questions. Afton, my mother's name, Afton, tell me how many children you have. Where do your children live? And my mother is struggling through each of these questions. I mean, there are only 3 of us, but she is struggling to come up with the answers. And then the speech therapist says, well, tell me what your children do for a living. And so she struggles through my brother, she struggles through my sister, and then the speech therapist looks at me and she says, well, Kathy's here from San Francisco. Why don't you tell me what Kathy does for a living? And I thought, oh, this is going to be fascinating. And my mother looked at me, and she looked at the speech therapist, and then she struggled to get it out. She said, well, what Kathy does is very important. She takes care of all the lesbians and gays in the world. And the speech therapist looks at me and says, well, that's an awfully big job. The entire Martin Luther King quote is as follows. Power without love is reckless and abusive. Love without power is sentimental and anemic. Power at its best is love, implementing the demands of justice. And justice at its best is power, correcting everything that stands against love. We have power, and we leaven it with love. That is how we bend the arc towards justice. So let's win some more justice, and let's begin by electing some of these key officials who care about justice and have that frame for justice to office, and supporting this vital work of Equality Utah. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Kate Kendall.
Thank you. Sure.
Oh, man. Now,
Thank you. Thank you. Actually, the way you can thank me is pull out your phone and let's hit that needle at 15,000 at least. How
that's
about
right.
that?
Now, the other connection that Kate and I have is that we're both KRCL alum. Kate was the board chair of KRCL Radio back in the day, and so we know how to, go on the air and ask people to dial and pick up your phone and call right now and pledge. So you have the message, you have your link. Go ahead and call and donate right now. We are going to use this money to elect fair-minded candidates in this state. We're going to use this money to register 10 to 15,000 people to vote. We're going to use this money to canvass for our elected leaders. We're going to use this money to change the tide and wake the hive. So we need you now, folks. If you are you're not into technology, we do have the old-fashioned envelopes. If you just fill it out and raise it high, we will come along and collect your envelopes. How are we doing, Mindy?
We're at 7,425. Thank you, Igor.
Okay, we're almost halfway
Thank you,
there.
Dustin
Almost
Gettle.
halfway there. So I will just say, a highlight of this morning was me seeing on stage
Thank you, Michelle.
members of the city council from Midvale, Salt Lake, and my hometown, Marcia White from Ogden. I will just say, it is amazing to see that. When I was a 17-year-old baby dyke in Ogden, Utah, and my first girlfriend and I remember having the actual thought that we were the only two lesbians in Utah. Because you felt so isolated. But I'll tell you what, there's not one 17-year-old anywhere in the state of Utah now that thinks they're alone. Because of Equality Utah and because of these elected officials, so let's keep it going.
That's right.
Let's show these kids some mentorship and let these kids know that they're not alone and they have lots of powerful adults to look up to. All of you guys. Thank you. Look at all these awesome people. We're at 8,415. Remember, we get to 15,000. We get to 10. We get a 5,000 matching grant. Let's get us to 10,000.
Come on, folks. So we got some envelopes coming here.
We need just a little more to get to our matching grant. We need you.
It is okay to donate more than once. All right? You can do that. We will not stop you.
Baby.
Keep the money coming, folks.
Thank you, Tina. Thank you, Brianne Miller.
Gotta make me change my mind.
Thank you, Corey Thomas.
So with the number of people that are here,
Thank you, Judy.
if everyone here just did the equal to the amount of whatever you're wearing, equal to the amount of whatever you're wearing, and we're including your shoes, we would hit 15,000.
Thank
no
you,
doubt.
Katie. Woo! Now our little high school girl is donating. You get it, girl. Thank you, Allie. Oh, we're so close, friends. Let's keep it going. We're so close.
We have so much power. We have so much energy.
Thank you, Whitney and Ben.
Is it going up?
Oh, we're at 9,615. Thank you, Brian Jones.
All right, somebody take us to 10.
Thank you,
Take us to
Trent.
10.
Thank you, Joseph Broom. Thank you, Rob.
We promise we're going to put all of your money.
We got our matching grant. Let's keep it going.
$10,000. $50,000. Any more money coming in?
Thank you, Rebecca. Thank you.
Keep the money coming in, folks.
Thank you, Maria.
Utah continue. I feel the same way Cliff does. Whenever I travel anywhere, people are like, but wait, Utah? And I'm like, disabuse yourself of any notions you might have had. Utah is rocking and Utah is leading. And Utah actually has more LGBT, Salt Lake City has more LGBT elected officials than most other cities in the country. Keep surprising, and that's
because of the work of Equality Utah.
Thank you, Jackie.
We are here to queer the vote this year, folks.
Let's queer the vote.
We gotta queer the vote. How are we doing, Mindy?
We are at $11,055.
Come on, folks. Let's keep it going. I feel like
Four more.
Thank you, Karen.
I feel like we're in a revival right now, folks. We gotta pass the gold plate around. Come on, we need you.
I'm going to start speaking in tongues.
We're at $11,275.
Every
We're going to be
time,
able to support our candidate.
every dollar we raise saves our democracy. All right, we need to elect shitty people. If you are upset with what's happening in our political climate, we need to hear from you now. We need to see you now.
Okay.
Thank you, Kris. We're at $11,875. Can we get to 12? Can we get to 12 and we'll stop?
No, we're not stopping till we hit 15. I'm sorry, we're staying up here till we hit 15.
Come on, folks.
11,000. We are good, friends. Thank you, everyone. Take your hand, pat your back.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Now you can have a great day. Thank you.
And thank you, Jared Burns over here. All right, we love you. Don't forget the Equality Celebration May 19th in St. George. We want to see you there. And please keep watching for the legislative session. We've got one more month to go, folks, so we need you every step of the way with us. Thank you so much, and thank you, Kate Kendall.
My pleasure. Thank you, folks.
Latoya
It's great to be
Candace,
home.
thank you so much. Have a great day. Go change the world. Wake the hive.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
We were cosmic